Okay, so here we are. We've opened up Illustrator. We're going to be looking at ways to use the pen tool, which I will also at many times call the vector tool, since it creates vectors, in order to illustrate and draw. And this tool is super versatile, and it's probably, in my opinion, the foundational tool for Illustrator. And so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to play around with how the tool behaves. So you'll select your pen tool. You also notice with all your toolbars that there's all these different options to add anchor points, which again we won't really get into today, but the more you learn about the pen tool, the more you'll learn about its versatility. So using the pen tool is simple. It's just a click, and you'll see how you have your line will be extended depending on where your next click is. So I could just click and let go and continue clicking and starting to build the shape. You notice right now I have a fill color and a stroke color. To change that, right now I'm still in pen tool, so I would either go back to my selection tool, or I could just press V. As you can see, it has V in parentheses. So I'm going to press V. I'm just going to change my fill color to white. I'm going to change my stroke color by clicking on it, change that to black. Basic here. Also notice that my lines are very thick. I can go up to, if I click on my shape, it'll reset and it'll show me my stroke. And this will just be the thickness of the stroke. Right now we're at 7 points. I'm going to bring it down to maybe 3. Okay. Up here in your path toolbar, you'll also see how there's different options. There's different types of pens, brushes. Also your opacity is up here. And so right now I don't have a complete shape. I stopped clicking. I didn't go back to my original anchor. So what I could do is take my pen tool and I would just continue on. If I wanted to make sure that I would click back on one of the anchor points, either one of these, click on them and then continue drawing. The way I know I'm finished by closing a shape is by clicking on the original anchor point, and there I have my closed shape. Right now I still have my pen tool, so I'm going to press V or selection tool. Now I can kind of work with this drawing that I've made. I could go back and change the colors if I wanted to. I could change the size, the scale. I could rotate it, do a lot of different things. I could duplicate it, holding down Alt, clicking and dragging, do all kinds of things. I can change it, maybe use a gradient tool like we'll explore soon. But I think one of the best ways to learn about the shape tool is by tracing things. But before we do that, you also want to know that the vector tool can create curved forms. In order to do that, you have to click and you have to hold. So I haven't let go. Now I'm just moving my mouse, and you'll notice what's happening to my line that I'm drawing. So I'm just going in a circle. I'm going to click and I'm going to hold, and the moment I let go of my mouse, it'll draw my line. And what you'll notice is that now, before I even click the next mark, my line is curved. So if I wanted to make the inverse, I could do that. But let's say I just want to make a curve and I want to continue drawing straight lines. If I wanted to continue drawing straight lines, I would have to click back on this anchor point, and that kind of resets the tool. So let's say let's do the inverse or something close to it. I'm going to click again, and what you'll notice now is it's reset back to straight lines. But if we had dragged and clicked and hold, we have a curved line. If I wanted to then now draw a straight line, I'll just click on the anchor point and it'll allow me to draw a straight line again. If I wanted to maybe finish with a curved line, I would click and hold and finish there. Okay, selection tool. Now I have my shape. So play along, play around. You can pause the video. You can play around with the vector tool, start to get comfortable with it. Maybe you can work with your color palette over here, which is on this toolbar on this side. But if you're ready, if you feel like you're already familiar with the pen tool, you can come over here and give this a shot. Now I'm going to lock this layer, so don't click on it. This is a typography piece that I found as I was exploring ideas for this project, and I just found it to be very impressive in a way that the vectors are able to kind of create the illusion of three-dimensional space, in addition to using the gradient tool to do that. So again, when I was in high school learning how to use the vector tool, I really got into tracing people's faces and objects, and that's kind of how I really got better at the tool. And it gave me a target. It gives me lines to try to duplicate. So I think it's a good practice. And I'm not saying that copying type is the best way to go to create your own work, but it definitely helps when you're trying to learn how to use a tool. So I'm going to select the vector tool, and I'm just going to start by tracing this top shape. And again, you can zoom in. That always helps. You'll notice how the image is pixelated because it was a picture. The great thing about vectors is that once you draw them, they don't pixelate. So if you're going to do a poster for something, and you did all vectors using the shape tool or the vector tool, they could blow up your poster as big as they wanted to, and they would never pixelate, which is the beautiful thing. So here we go. We want to create this curved shape. So I could probably click here if I wanted to, but I'm just kind of going to go quickly, and I'm going to click and hold, and I'm going to drag my cursor to kind of go back and forth to see. You'll notice as I notice my mouse, my cursor, the farther away I go, the difference that it makes in terms of how it manipulates the line. And really you have to do it. You have to just try it out to see how it feels. But I've done this quite a bit, so I kind of know where I want to drag my mouse, but it took some practice. So I think my blue line is close to matching up. I'm going to let go. And I could keep drawing, but this is actually a symmetrical shape. So in order for me to get things exact, I'm going to hold shift down. And what that does is it keeps my line straight. You can just try your best if you want to, but I'm just going to cut this in half. So I'm going to hold down shift, and I'm going to click right on this line. And because I have a fill color, it's actually hard for me to see what I'm doing. So I'm going to go over here and click this None button. What that'll do is it'll get rid of my fill color. Now I can actually see what I'm tracing. I'm going to click over here. Okay, straight line, and now I have another curved line. So I'm going to click back on my anchor point, and I'm going to hold down and just try to figure out how I can get as close as I can. It's not going to be perfect, but I'll get as close as I can. Okay, so I've created half of my shape, and the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just copy and paste this. I could do Command C, Command V, like that. Oh, it just got a section of it. I'll try that again. Sometimes it needs to reset. Or I could just hold down Alt and just drag this over here. Now, another reason why we're doing this is because there's a lot of ways to manipulate shapes. You could, I'm going to right click here to this transform section. I right clicked, transform. These are great tools to learn how to use. Rotate and reflect. Now obviously I have to reflect this vertically. I need to flip this over so it matches the other side. So I'm going to go to transform, reflect. And I have some options. I can reflect it, goodness, horizontally, or I can reflect it vertically. And obviously you can see my line here is going to be vertical, so I'm going to reflect it vertically. You don't need to worry about the angle yet or anything like that. Now I have my shape, and I can just click and drag this and get it as close as I can. And so it's not exact. I'm going to zoom up and just kind of slowly play with this so I get it right in the middle. Okay, that'll work. Now, we need to make these two shapes, and I could just leave them separate. I could select both of them and group them. That's one way I could do it, but I would still have that fill, that stroke line. So there's a really cool tool over here called the Shape Builder tool. And this Shape Builder tool is great because it does what it says it does. It builds shapes together and merges them together. So I'm going to click my Shape Builder tool. I've selected both of my shapes here. You'll notice as I drag my cursor above them, these little textures form. What I'm going to do, I'm going to draw a line across both shapes. I'm just going to draw a line across both shapes. You'll see how they're both highlighted. I'm going to let go, and then boom, I've created one shape It's such a useful tool to know. It becomes very useful. All right, so now I'm going to keep on drawing. I could fill this and change it to blue, but I'm just going to keep on drawing. And I'm going to go back to my pen tool. And let's say you don't want to, you're going to be drawing on top of this and you don't really want to mess around with it. You could lock it in your layers. I could lock this. Okay, this way I won't touch it. You could also hit Command 2. That's the hotkey. So now I can't actually touch these layers and I won't bother them. I can always go back and unlock them. Okay, now I'm going to take my pen tool and I'm going to try to imagine where that point is. It's probably somewhere here. Maybe I'll start here and kind of go around. Again, I'm going to go to the center point and just click and drag, try to get as close as I can. It's not going to be exact, just learning how to use a tool. I'm still curved. I can click this again, or I can click up here. All right. Ooh, I don't like that. Click and try again just to get the exact point that I want. What I could do is just copy it and reflect it like I did to my other piece. You know what? That's what I'm going to do. So I have my one piece. Go to transform, reflect. Oh, I need to make another version. Excuse me. All right, now I have my line. I'm just going to adjust this a little bit. Now these are separated. Now what I can do is I could click both of them. I could group them, but what I really want to make sure I do is that these paths are connected. So I'm going to go to Object, Path, and then Join. Or you'll notice the hotkey is just Command J. You don't have to know all the hotkeys, but they're just there if you want to learn them. I'm going to hit Join, and what you'll notice is these two paths join together. Now they're one line. I'm going to go back. I'm actually going to keep drawing here. Click on the anchor point. Imagine where that is. Click and then drag. You won't be able to see this part, so it's not as important to me. Click again, and now I've created my shape. All right, and it's on top of this layer. I'm going to go back to my layers and unlock this path one so I can select it. Now what I want to do is change the fill color. Click on my path, and then I'm going to go to my color palette. Notice how it's no color. Let's say I want to get this exact color. You can use the eyedropper tool, and the eyedropper tool will select the color that whatever you click on. So I want you to watch this color palette here. Every time I select different colors, wherever I click, it'll change it to that color. So I want to do something like this. I'm going to click there, selection tool, and I want to move this underneath. And I can do that by just hitting Command : or I can go to Object, Arrange, Send to Back. I don't want to go all the way back. Right. All right, now we're going to learn more about the gradient tool in another tutorial, but for now I'm just going to make this orange. Okay. Now when I zoom out, I'm on my way. I've just started, and I'm just going to copy this and paste this over here so I can kind of see what I'm working with. I'm off to a good start. The gradient part will then be in another tutorial, but you can see just maybe tracing things that are challenging and understanding how to use the curvature of the vector tool are great ways to learn how to use the tool. So what I would do is I would go and pick a graphic, pick some kind of logo maybe that you think, oh, that's pretty tough, and I would bring it into your Illustrator file and try to trace it just using the vector tool. I would give that a shot. I know this was a little bit long of a video, and you can pause it at any time and go back to different sections. But I think many of you, I think the vector tool or using Illustrator to create your typeface is going to be a really good place for you And so I hope that this tutorial kind of gives you an idea of how to use the vector tool.